Which one do you want me to tell?
Anything.
So
tell me about the two mountains and part of being a part of the Euro
So we're standing in the lobby at the Dean Leon Comer Center, and on either side of old US 220 are two small hills. And they're actually, the one on the east side actually has a U.S. Coastal Service geodetic marker on the top of it. I could probably still go find it. That was done in 1954 when they surveyed it, and they had the elevation there. And the one on the right side is where Lux built their, sewage treatment.
spray field.
Spray field for the cannery when USDA or OSHA or somebody said you can't pump it into the streams anymore. But on either side of that road across were stores at one time, gasoline stations that were really something in their day. The latter one was on the Colvin Road, Sundonnell, and they had a cafe on one side, a general store in the middle, two gas pumps that you'd pull up to, restrooms on the right-hand side that were little outdoor toilets, privies that you'd walk to. A vivid memory there is at least two times in my life, this would have been in the early 50s, probably late 40s, early 50s, a man named the Goat Man would come through, and he had a wagon that sold every kind of kitchenware appliance you could think of. The thing just rattled, and it was pulled by a team of like 8 goats. And he would travel around in this part of the state, and word would spread that the Goat Man was at Claude Monroe's store, and women would come out of their homes and drive down there to go buy things from him. I've seen a similar episode in the Andy Griffin Show with a character like that.
Yeah.
But on the just past there and slightly past where Phil Morgan's pottery is today, you can still see a foundation. And my mother's parents, William and Minnie Green, ran it, and it was a similar store earlier, and it was named the Gap because it sits in the gap between those two hills. Wouldn't be fair to say they're mountains, but if you look at them from the air, and I used to be a helicopter pilot, I've flown around, those are the last two mountains in the URA chain before it starts fading into the coastal plain and goes on down to Fayetteville and so forth.
And this picture you're standing in front of.
Yeah, this is, you can still see the original cannery. It was called Mountain View Cannery initially. And just beside it is a white frame house, and that's the house I grew up in. The foundation was laid November the 4th, 46. I know that date because that's my birthday. You can see a single one-car garage behind it. And my dad's mother, for a period of time, lived in the home next door. And then when we were in high school, around 1962, they built a new brick home on the next lot down, which is just this side of Pollock's pottery at this point. So lots of memories here. All of this area, you can see that it looks like just green fields, was owned by Jesse Boone, that lives at the end of what we call Boontown Road. And he farmed this. It was mostly cornfields. And not even 100 yards from here, Lexi Boone lived. He had a son, David, that was a year younger than me. And when in the springtime, after these fields were plowed, David would come get me, or I'd go get him. We'd had a rainstorm, and we'd go up there and find arrowheads. A lot of Creek Indians evidently lived in this region. I must have 150, 200 arrowheads that I found in that area. And then if you go kind of beyond those fields, there's a stream in there. And every Christmas, my mom would send me back there, and I'd bring back running cedar and winterberry for her to decorate for Christmas. So lots of memories here. And on the naughty side, you know how boys are when you're around, we would sneak up here. The drivers that drove those trucks sometimes would leave them unlocked. And every once in a while, in one of them, this guy had girly magazines. So the first girly magazine I ever looked at was in one of these trucks.
Now I'm going to have to cut that part out.
You could cut it out, it's fine, but it's something every boy goes through probably. But just a lot of fond memories. And initially, before the new spray field was put in for the waste, everything just flowed into the ditch on the west side of US 220.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The Claude Monroe store, I can remember one night we must have had 8 or 10 inches of snow on the ground. And my dad, who eventually became the assistant fire chief in Seagrove, but this was before the fire trucks, he hollered and said, Claude Monroe's store's on fire. And people came, all the homes around here, the Hinesleys, the Tedders, the Boones, and everybody went down there. And we literally, the fire was in the chimney, but we literally threw snowballs at that fire till we put it out. True story. So you have to improvise when you don't have a fire department. Great stories.